This is the story of China, that how China has achieved so much in every aspect, be it manufacturing industry, science and technology, military, sports, education and many more, which led China to be the next superpower after United States of America. The GDP size of China is giving cut-to-cut fight to United States of America GDP, the country who got independence more than 150 years ago than China. But at the same time, all those countries who got independence during when the China got, like India, Pakistan and other Asian and African countries, they stood nowhere in front of China. India, who is considered the most developed country among other countries, has only $3.42 trillion size of GDP, whose population is equivalent to China, but the current GDP size of China is around $17.96 trillion. There is no comparison between the two countries. By the way, these are the two giant countries of Asia, but the difference between the size of their GDP is very vast. Even the many other countries who got the independence during when China got, they have not touched $1 trillion GDP like Pakistan and others. Talking about the various sectors where China have achieved milestones. If I talk about the sports, the last Summer Olympic Games were held in Tokyo, Japan in 2021, where many countries have participated. China finished the games with 88 medals, out of which 38 was gold, and managed the second rank in the Olympic Games, while India finished at 40th rank with 7 medals, out of which one was gold. There is a huge gap between both the two Asian giants as far as sports is concerned, and the other countries unable to get a single medal. This shows the milestone achievement of China in sports. As far as the billionaires are concerned, China has 814 billionaires, which is the most in the world according to the global rich list of 2024. Despite holding on the top position, China lost 155 billionaires year over year, while with 800 billionaires, United States of America is the second position, and with 271 billionaires, India is on the third position. In the field of business and trading, China is the world's largest manufacturing economy and exporter of goods. However, exports as a percentage of GDP has steadily dropped to just around 20%, reflecting its decreasing importance to the Chinese economy. Nevertheless, it remains the largest trading nation in the world and played prominent role in the international trade. Manufacturing has been transitioning towards high-tech industries such as electric vehicles, renewable energy, telecommunication and IT equipment, and services has also grown as a percentage of GDP. China is also the world's fastest growing consumer market and the second largest importer of goods. China is a net importer of services products. China was the largest recipient of foreign direct investment in the world as of 2020, receiving inflows of $163 billion. China has the world's largest foreign exchange reserves worth $3.1 trillion, but if the foreign assets of China's state-owned commercial banks are included, the value of China's reserves rises to nearly $4 trillion. China has the world's 6th largest gold reserves with over 2,000 tons of gold. China spends around 2.43% of GDP on advanced research and development across various sectors of the economy. With 791 million workers, the Chinese labor force was the world's largest as of 2021. According to the World Factbook, in 2022, China was ranked the 11th most innovative country in the world, third in the Asia and Oceania region, and second for countries with a population over 100 million. China is the only middle-income economy and the only newly industrialized economy in top 30. China also leads in several measures of global patent filings as well as research and scientific output. China is also the world's largest high-technology exporter. China has the second largest financial asset in the world, at value of $17.9 trillion as of 2021. As far as the billionaires and millionaires are concerned, China is on the top. China has the largest middle class in the world, with over 500 million people earning over 120,000 Chinese currency a year. In the field of education, China's education sector is expansive, driven by a large students population and growing demand for diverse educational services. As of 2022, China has the largest state-run education system in the world, with 293 million students and 18.8 million teachers is over 5,80,500 schools, while the country mandates 9 years of compulsory education. As of 2021, China's literacy rate has reached 99.83%. Between 2015 to 2021, the literacy rate of China grew by 0.106%, while the literacy rate of India is 77.70% as of 2021. In the World University ranking, China has 2 universities in the top 7 in the top 100 and 13 in the top 200. The number of Chinese institutions in the top 400 of the World University ranking has doubled from 15 in 2021 to 30 in 2023. As of 2022, China spent around 4.01% of its GDP in education, while the India and Pakistan spent less than 3% of its GDP in education. In the field of health, the Chinese government has also established a healthcare insurance system that covers almost 96% of the population and benefits more than 1.36 billion people. In 2022, health expenditure in China amounted to about 7.05% of its GDP, while India's expenditure on its health is about 2.1% of its GDP in 2021-22. In the field of financial sector, China's banking sector had around 50 trillion US dollar in assets at the end of 2020. The big four state-owned commercial banks are the Bank of China, the China Construction Bank, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, Agriculture Bank of China, all of which are among the largest banks in the world as of 2018. As far as the World Banking list are concerned, China secured the top position with 20 banks in the world top 100 banking list, following by United States of America with 12 banks, and India, who considers itself the biggest rival of China, has 2 banks in the world top 100 banks. The People's Bank of China is Central Banks of China, which formulates and implements monetary policy. According to People's Bank of China, China's banking sector had total assets worth 406.25 trillion Chinese currency as of second quarter of 2023. As of the end of June 2023, there are 4,561 banks in China. Chinese banking sector is primarily dominated by state-owned banks, which are relatively well capitalized and more risk-averse compared with their counterparts in the US and the Eurozone. In the field of agriculture, in 2023, the agriculture sector has contributed around 7.1% of the gross domestic product of China, whereas 38.3% of the economic value added had originated from the industry and 54.6% came from the service sector. In 2022, the acreage of agricultural land in China amounted to approximately 170 million hectares. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, as of 2022, China was by far the world's leading agriculture producer with annual output valued at $1.66 trillion. China has only 10% of the world's arable land, yet produces a quarter of the global grain output and leads the planet in the production of cereal, cotton, fruit, vegetable, meat, poultry, eggs, and fishery products, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. China also has one of the world's largest pool of agricultural labor. Though the proportion of workers in food production has decreased steadily from 60% in 1991, farm work still accounted for 25% of national employment as of 2019. In the field of science and technology, ancient Chinese scientists and engineers made significant scientific innovations, findings, and technological advances across various scientific disciplines, including the natural sciences, engineering, medicine, military technology, mathematics, geology, and astronomy. Among the earliest inventions were the abacus, the sundial, and the Kongming lantern. The 4 great inventions were the compass, gunpowder, paper making, and printing were among the most important technological advances. As China boldly charges forward with massive funding increases for research and development. Recently, in March 2024, Chinese government announced a massive $52 billion investment in research and development for 2024, which is a 10% surge over the previous year. That represents the largest percentage increase of any major funding area, including military spending. The Chinese government has also targeted for investment and promotion a range of strategic emerging technologies that include environment technology, information and telecommunications, biotechnology, advanced manufacturing, renewable energy, advanced material nuclear technology, and green vehicles. China is the fastest growing and the most dynamic global market for emerging digital technologies. With 900 million plus internet users and a vibrant consumer economy, China is experiencing rapid and large-scale deployment of emerging technologies including 5G, advanced artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and blockchain-based technologies. Its digital economy is worth 30% of its GDP. China accounts for almost half of the world's e-commerce transaction. In the field of space science, China has one of the most active space programs in the world. With the space launch capability provided by the Long March rocket family and 4 spaceports within its border, China conducts either the highest or the second highest number of orbital launches each year. It operates a satellite fleet consisting of a large number of communication, navigation, remote sensing, and scientific research satellites. The scopes of its activities has expanded from low Earth orbit to the Moon and the Mars. China is one of the 3 countries alongside the United States and Russia with independent human space flight capability. Major space program of China are China Manned Space Program, Waidu Navigation Satellite System, Chinese Lunar Exploration Program, and many more. In recent years, China has conducted several missions. These are Chang'e 4, Chang'e 5, Chang'e 6, Tianmen 1, and Tiangong Space Station. After USA government, the China government expands on the space program of over 14 million US dollar. As far as the manufacture sector in China is concerned, as the United States is the world's sole military superpower, it spends more on its military than the 10 next highest country combined. So as China is now the world's sole manufacturing superpower, its production exceeds then that of the 9 next largest manufacturers combined. As of 2022, manufacturing sector contribute around 39.4% to China's gross domestic products, which is around 7.2 trillion US dollar, which is more than the double of India's total GDP. In 2023 in China, the workforce in China amounted to 740 million people. This mark an annual increase of 7 million, indicating a strong rebound from 2022, a year strongly influenced by the coronavirus pandemic. There are over 200 million skilled workers in Chinese mainland, among whom more than 50 millions are highly skilled workers. To meet such a skilled workforce, the neighboring country India will take more than 40 years. As far as the service sector in China is concerned, as of 2021, service sector contributed to 53.3% in China's GDP, which surpassed the industry sector in 2013. The service sector includes transportation, storage and shipping, the wholesale and retail trades, hotel and catering services, financial services, and real estate, among others. And the most important, that is military of China. The Chinese government announces defense expenditure information annually. In March 2024, China announced a yearly defense budget of 1.67 trillion Chinese currency, which is equal to the 231.3 billion US dollar, while the neighboring country India's defense budget for 2024 to 25 is approximate 75 billion US dollar. Chinese army is the world's largest military force by active personnel with over 2 million members. This large size provides China with significant manpower for various military operations. China is the second largest military spender in the world, which allowed China to invest in modernizing its military equipment and capabilities. China has made significant advancement in developing and acquiring advanced military technologies such as stealth fighters, aircraft carriers, anti-ballistic missiles, anti-ship ballistic missiles, and cyber warfare capabilities. China has been expanding its military presence in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. The Chinese military has been involved in various territorial disputes in the South China Sea and had engaged in peacekeeping missions in different parts of the world. The Chinese military has been evolving its military doctrine to focus more on joint operation, information warfare, and integrated defense system. This shift in doctrine reflects China's aim to enhance its military capabilities for modern warfare scenarios. The progress of China in agriculture, manufacture industry, service sector, business arena, sports, education, health, financial sector, science and technology, space, military, in all these various sectors made the China superpower. But what matters the most is that China did all this so quick and within a very short span of time. Till 1978, China's progress was on the same pace as India. Pakistan and the other Asian and African countries were progressing. Since 1978, China began to open up and reform its economy. The GDP size of China has increased an average over 9% per year. There have also been significant improvements in access to health, education, and other services over the same period. Between 1978 and 2018, China reduced extreme poverty by 800 million. Between 1981 and 2019, the percentage of the population living in extreme poverty decreased from 88.1% to 0.2%. Its current account surplus increased by a factor of 53 between 1982 and 2021 from $5.67 billion to $317 billion. The question comes here is that how China grew so fast, and these are the reasons behind China's economic growth. The People's Republic of China's development from one of the poorest countries to the one of the largest economies was the quickest of any country. From 1979 until the Chinese economic reform in 1978, the economy was state-led with market activity remaining underground. The economic reforms began under Deng Xiaoping. China subsequently became the world's fastest growing major economy with growth rates averaging 10% over 30 years. The main reason behind the China's quick growth were the economic reforms of 1978, and now we will discuss these points one by one. First, we will talk about what was the condition of China's economy prior to 1979. Prior to 1979, China maintained a centrally planned or command economy. To support its rapid industrialization, the central government undertook large-scale investments. Private enterprises and foreign invested firms were generally barred. Foreign trade was generally limited to obtaining those goods that could not be made or obtained in China. Such policy have created distortion in the economy. In 1978, the Chinese government decided to break with its Soviet-style economic policies by gradually reforming the economy according to free market principles and opening up trade and investment with the West. In the beginning of 1979, China launched several economic reforms. The central government of China initiated price and ownership incentives for farmers. The Chinese government established 4 special economic zones along the coast for the purpose of attracting foreign investment, boosting exports, and importing high technology products into China. Economic controls of various enterprises was given to provincial and local governments, which were generally allowed to operate and compete on free market principles rather than under the direction and guidance of state planning. Then the Chinese government removed trade barriers, which encouraged greater competition and attracted FDI inflows. Since the introduction of economic reforms, China's economy started substantially faster than during the pre-reform period, and this has avoided major economic disruptions. From 1979 to 2008, China's annual real GDP increased with an average of 9.5%. And now we will talk about from 1990s onward. In the year 1990, China joined the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the Asian Development Banks. These new connections pushed Chinese policy even further towards open markets. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization. After China entered in these networks, they began to replace Japan as a leading producer and distributors of goods around the world. Now we will talk about the role of agriculture reform in China economy. China has a huge labor force, but it was largely uneducated and unskilled. The primary cause for such a high concentration of unskilled labor was Mao's demolition of schools and universities in order to crush the rebels. Later, after 1976, Deng's China abolished the government's control over agricultural land and promoted private farming. As a result, China's agriculture industry exploded. China's transition from a food deficit to a food surplus. The expansion of China's agriculture sector lifted millions out of poverty and increased farmer incomes. Farmers were encouraged to invest in commercial crops such as sugarcane and cotton as a result of the unexpected increase of revenue. And next, we will talk about the textile revolution and its impact in the Chinese economy growth. Commercialization of agriculture promoted cash crop, and in the 1990s, China became the world's largest producer of cotton. This resulted in a significant expansion of China's textile industry. Locally accessible, expensive labor and cotton aided in the expansion of the textile industry, which grew at a rate of 95% by the end of 1993. China started exporting textile as a part of open door policy, and its economy merged with the global economy. And now we will talk about the role of skilling of labor force in China's economic growth. Deng, the supreme leader of China after 19 1976 made a concerted effort to educate and skill the population. In the 1980s, the Chinese government subsidized up to 70% of schooling, skill development, and other expenses. This education reform mandated a 9-year schooling period that included vocational education. Primary education became ubiquitous in China in 1990, and the number of graduates increased from 0.16 million in 1978 to nearly 1 million in the 1990s as a result of these concerted efforts. Now we will talk about shifting to electronic goods that made a significant impact in the Chinese economic growth. In the early 1990s, Japanese and South Korean brands such as Samsung, Sony, Panasonic, and LG were widely successful in the West. However, these companies needed to expand their production in order to maintain the distribution network, but were unable to do so due to lack of available land and expensive labor. This is where China entered into the picture. The country's vast skilled workforce drew investment from industrial companies in Japan and South Korea that were experiencing labor shortages. China implemented this plan by establishing a number of special economic zones throughout the country. Now we will talk about the United States technology boom and its impact on China. Internet and computer technology were booming in the late 1990s in the United States, which gave birth to tech behemoths such as HP, Dell, and Apple. All of these companies have one thing in common, for which they require cheap and skilled labor. These requirements result in the establishment of manufacturing outsourcing. China implemented a conditional foreign investment policy in which they encouraged foreign firms to partner with domestic firms and also to share their technology with domestic Chinese firms. As a result of this policy, modest Chinese firms can now manufacture advanced products. And shifting towards service sector has also played an important role in China's growth economy. In the mid-2000s, as the service IT business grew in the United States due to development of Microsoft, Facebook, and Google, China benefited from it as well, owing to their skilled labor. As a result of this transformation, China's services industry rose from 25% in 1975 to 54% in 2019. Going ahead, China is also racing to adopt new technologies such as artificial intelligence and 5G. And now we will talk about the 2008 financial crisis and aftermath. Rising labor cost, an aging population, and the 2008 financial crisis all had a significant impact on the Chinese economy. It is then when the Chinese President Xi Jinping has vigorously pursued the Go Global strategy, ordering all enterprises to invest in international markets. The Belt and Road initiatives in the most visible manifestation of the Go Global strategy. At the nutshell, I would say if the 15th and 16th century was dominated by Spain, 17th and 18th century were dominated by France, 18th and 19th century were dominated by Britishers, and 20th century were referred to American century, then 21st century is going to be Chinese century.